On this episode of AV Week, directing design decisions through data, securing AV devices, and looking at the very first Dante AV devices that have been released. All that and more next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 515, recorded Thursday, July 1st, 2021. Software first.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by
Extron, industry-leading technology backed by world-class support.
And by Vadio, a leading manufacturer of professional PTZ cameras, Pro AV solutions, and UCC integration systems. And by
Sennheiser. For over 75 years, Sennheiser has been a leader in pro audio and is now offering a wide variety of touchless and traditional audio solutions for both corporate and educational campus-wide audio.
This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audiovisual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to discuss the news and information we have gathered this week. We're recording this right before the U.S. celebrates 4th of July, so I figured I'd give myself a vacation today. We have three talkers. So my name is Tim, and the rest of these folks are going to take it from here. First and foremost, from Parts Unknown, Dawn Mead. Welcome, ma'am.
Thanks so much for having me, as usual, Tim.
We say Parts Unknown because technically Dawn is is a technology manager, AV technology manager, and she works for a company that we can't say who they work for.
I'm in an undisclosed location in the greater Baltimore, Northern Virginia area.
That was even closer than I was going to do. I was just going to do east on the East Coast.
You know, the DMV, got to represent.
There we go. Well, basically her neighbor, Nairi Hollingsworth. Nairi, can we say where you work?
Sure. I work for the MITRE Corporation.
All right, there you go. Also in the Maryland, Virginia, Washington, D.C. area. And with us from the western portion of the United States, my good friend Christy Mitchell from Surgex. Welcome, ma'am.
Hi, welcome. I mean, not welcome to you, but hello, everyone.
How are you? We say the western parts of the U.S. Christy is out of Denver, which I think right now you're in California, though, so you're way west.
Actually, I'm in Arizona. California's next. Just being in person and seeing people again is fantastic. It feels like I'm actually doing my job.
I know, it's crazy.
What a miracle.
We're getting ready. We're actually already we're starting to prep for Infocom certainly, but also really in earnest CEDIA. We'll be going to CEDIA the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of September. Actually, you can join us if you'd like in Indianapolis. We are doing a party, an event with the IMCCA, Poly, our buddy Mr. David Danto, and Chris Netto is actually going to get out of New Jersey. According to Mr. Netto, he says that's his first trip after the pandemic. So that'll be kind of exciting. So if you're not doing anything the first week of September and you want to go over to Indy, come join us. So yeah, hang out. First story comes to us from our friends over at SCN and AV Network. The very first Dante AV products are available from both Bolin Technology and Patent Electronics. They've released Dante AV over IP products that can run on a 1 gig network. This is a year and a half after Audinate first unveiled the chip design. That was roughly the ISE 2020 when Dante unveiled that. Bolin has the Dante AV PTZ cameras. Those start at roughly $2,500 MSRP. Patent has also released Dante AV encoders and decoders. Couldn't find an MSRP on their website or any of the documentation. Don, we're going to start with you on this. We're looking at AV over IP in general. How viable is that technology overarching, right? The overarching AV over IP as we kind of head back to work and we start looking at more hybrid systems and we start looking at more converting huddle spaces into mini hoteling spaces. AV over IP, how viable is that still in the office?
So I have to temper my answer by saying kind of, because it depends what your office is or who you're working for. In the vast majority of the corporate world, if you take at least very minimal precautions, there shouldn't be a massive issue with putting your AV over the IP network, with working with the IT team to get your signals where they need to be. For certain verticals, especially here in this particular part of the country, there is a lot more security required before you can put anything on the network, whether it's Dante, whether it's TSN, whether it's whatever flavor of AV over IP you're looking at. It's got to go through a huge vetting process. And even then, 99% of the time, at least in my company, you have to build a separate AV IP network, sort of parallel to the company's network. So for the vast majority of those listening, for home theater, for regular corporate, nonprofit, your general verticals, absolutely. AV over IP is fantastic. Gives you distance, gives you easier connectivity. People understand, it looks like a network wire. It's going to make the signal go. It's not all these wacky AV specific standards. But for some verticals, banks, anything with money, casinos, military, defense, aerospace, and even possibly some of the hospital verticals with the HIPAA requirements and such.
All right. One of those unique connectors is our buddy Mr. Mark Coxon's favorite in the world, HDMI. Nairi, when it comes to this, Dante has unveiled this. Is a very interesting move by them, their part. We thought so a year and a half ago, 2 years ago now. Where does Dante fit in this? Right, we've watched for years, and our good friends at AVB, God love them, they're still trying. But you've got the folks from Crestron to Extron, both of which are sponsors of AVNation. You've got the folks at Biamp who does use AVB. You've got SDVOE. You've got HG base T that has some sort of they don't quite have the over the network, but they've got point to point. Dante comes into this, one could argue rather late, but where do they fit in this field?
Well, I mean, so yeah, like you said, you take the alphabet soup, you pick one, that's the one you use in your organization. I really don't recommend mixing and matching in that regard. But definitely once you make that choice, you kind of, you're stuck with them for at least that next product generation as it comes out. So be that as it may, I think there is a place for it. It's interesting because Dante doesn't necessarily make products. So, having the technology licensed in other products, we'll see how that fleshes out. Obviously, we're seeing the Dante audio piece being adopted by just about everyone, that has skin in that game. The video piece is going to be a little bit more interesting. Where it comes to play, and going back to what Don was discussing, I think as we look at how offices are built, structured, remodeled, so to speak, to deal with our next normal, as people in my organization like to say, space is going to be at a premium. And to the extent that we can consolidate some of this equipment in smaller spaces and use category cables to distribute them throughout the facility, I think that's where you're going to see a lot of the advantage and the bang for the buck in these technologies, because otherwise it's just, a regular XLR cable can do just the same thing in that same room. But obviously, if you wanted to cross some distance, you got to do some encoding, decoding, and other things with it. So I think that's where it's going to really see itself kind of be an advantage in the marketplace by allowing integrators to generate some space savings as they build, I would say more sophisticated solutions for certain organizations.
Nairi, you mentioned that you don't necessarily want to mix and match the alphabet soups, and that certainly is true. That is the argument, though, that SDVOE would make, is the fact that, we're a standard. We can argue about the fact that they're a privately held company and standards like that. Same thing with HD-based T. There's the fact, and Audinate is as well. I don't want to make any judgments there. Audinate is as well. They're a privately held corporation based in Australia. Does the fact, though, that you mentioned the fact that Dante is pretty much accepted by darn near every audio manufacturer, does that give the mix and match and Dante an advantage then over other alphabet soups that are manufacturer specific?
Absolutely, because my biggest criteria when assessing which product that I'm going to choose is how does it manage the AV sync, and so to the extent that they have them both in the same place, obviously that makes life a lot easier. And so those, as you get closer, because, the way that I look at this, a lot of these changes are very much on the margins. There's not a whole lot of difference between the different technologies in terms of how they do it and what they're actually doing behind the scenes. So it's how much bandwidth are you going to be consuming on the network? How are you going to be managing AV sync? And can you deliver across the distances that you claim that you are able to deliver across? And, those are the evaluation criteria. Those that meet those criteria are products that I'm going to buy. Those that don't, we'll be looking for others to kind of outfit our solutions.
All right. Christy, as you're talking to dealers and their customers as well, where do you see this headed? Is this, I mentioned the fact that Dante is entering a rather crowded field. I guess I'm going to ask a really direct question here is where do you see kind of this overarching battle going? Are we going to see more and more folks, or is this kind of like the crest here before some folks are going to start, falling by the wayside when it comes to market share and technology?
Every time that I go in for a meeting, I ask this question, actually, because we're reaching an impasse where AV and IT are colliding, and a lot would argue that AV will fall up under IT, but IT doesn't. They're great, but they don't know AV. So we're two separate fields, kind of being pushed into one direction. So it's an interesting topic to talk about AV over IP because that's just one piece of a bigger picture. And when I talk to the guys about this, guys and gals about this, they say, look, this is what it is. Eventually, this is going to be our new normal, right? I think that Dante's got a great play. I think that in an alphabet soup full of options, what's one more? and and on top of that, just speaking from a manufacturer perspective, we've just launched a product that has IP connectivity. And to echo Don's point about where those products align, yes, we're going to have some issues in healthcare and anywhere with a lot of requirements, enterprise banks, financial institutions. But if we get it right with the security, with the encryption, so for example, Squid has 802.1x, which is the highest level of security protection that you could have for a commodity, a hardware product. If we get that right, and like you said, like Don said, if we're hanging these things on a separate AV network, everybody wins. It's good for everybody. And from the perspective of having things on the network, we're able to log into those devices and remotely monitor them. So if we've got eyes where we don't have to be there rolling a truck, we can be so much more proactive in solving problems, even before facilities managers even see them. So I think it's a positive play, just in general, and one more step closer to what this whole new world's going to look like with AV and IT.
Yeah, absolutely, and I want you guys to notice the fact that Christy works for a power company, right? An electrical company, electricity. They have products on the network, right? So everybody's got something. Yeah,
I have plugs on the network. If we can do it, then anybody can do it.
Wow, and don't sell yourself short. Not just that. Next story comes to us from our friends over at AV Magazine across the pond. Hopefully, sometime this year, I might be heading over there. The London Business School, leveraged Utelogy software. Our friends, Mr. Frank Pelkoffer, as well as AV hardware and Zoom to give instructors more flexibility when teaching hybrid classes over this past year. AV engineers at the London Business School created macros to launch Zoom instances. It initiated and changed signal flows between multiple sources and also gave data analytics on devices used. The school was able to take previously installed hardware and augment its use with software customization. Nairi, that's where I want to start here. How much more AV will be migrating toward a software software first solution. And I'm reminded not only Utelegy, which Dawn has been a part of darn near since the very beginning with Utelegy. Last year, we were introduced to Shure IntelliMix, which is a software-based DSP system, lives, in software. How much more are we going to see this migrating towards a software-based, software-first solution?
I think at a certain point, I would call it, over the next 5 years, so we can do the heat check in 5 years from now, see if I was right. All of it will be software based. It just totally makes a lot of sense. And I give you the example of what we are experiencing right now with Zoom basically taking over video conferencing. Software based solution that 10 years ago I would have told you were absolutely out of your mind if you thought anybody was going to buy it because it wasn't going to work. That's what I would have told you 10 years ago. And now they have taken over the world. Cisco missed the boat. They gave it away. And now those former Cisco people are eating their lunch. That is but one example of, the things that we do going to a more software first ecosystem. You've seen it there. You're seeing it with the DSPs and things of that nature. You're going to see it with the video media processors and things of that nature because the economics are driving it in that direction. It's just easier to buy a commodity piece of hardware because it's all software under the hood anyway. It's just that certain manufacturers have certain proprietary chipsets and things that drive their systems. Well, that even in and of itself is becoming less and less of a specialized use case. So, at the end of the day, when it's cheaper for them to manufacture it in a software only way, guess which way the manufacturers are going to go. And that's where I see all of this stuff going. Microphones and actual cameras and things like that, those are things that just really have to be in that little form factor. But even in cameras, a lot of the cameras that I'm evaluating, I want to see how they do image stitching and dynamic switching and pan tilt zoom within the fixed structure of that camera so that you can get more personalized experiences in conference rooms, without seeing a pan tilt zoom camera doing it physically, but logically, that camera is panning and tilting and focusing on different participants. So the more and more things get smarter in that direction, that's just going to be the way that it goes.
Yeah, one of the things that I was talking about, I've seen a number of these. I'm not going to call out the manufacturer, but you're looking at 4K and 8K sensors that does exactly what he's talking about, where it will zoom in on a participant, but because the sensor is so big, you can still zoom in to 1080,
Yep.
right? Because the canvas is 4K,
Yep.
right? The canvas is 8K, so absolutely. Christy, when we look at stuff like this, and we look at this software and also network-based architecture, and I guess this is our network show today, but what sort of security concerns do we look at? Christy mentioned the fact that the Squid is on the network, it's a network device, so certainly the folks at Surgex is going to start looking at and helping their clients and the technology managers manage the security. What sort of security concerns do folks need to start looking at when it comes to not just remote management, but also some of this data analytics and data management software?
I think we've all seen the news recently. I mean, how many times in a week will we pop up and see something's been hacked? Especially, at the very beginning of the pandemic.
Every day.
All trying to we were all trying to adjust to doing everything over the phone or on Zoom. And how many times did we hear stories about somebody hacking into somebody's family call? I mean, the nature of where we are versus where we're supposed to be, we have not caught up security wise with the needs that we now have in how we use technology. And that's just a fact. I mean, sometimes things move faster and then we have to adjust and smooth out what that picture looks like. But at the end of the day, I think that the most important thing for us to do as step one is not really look at what the concerns are. We know that they're there, they're out there, but how are we going to attack that problem and create a solution? So to me, it would be, let's look at the structure. We were talking, this is, like you said, this is the AVIP show. Inevitably, we're going to all smash together. So if that's the case, maybe we need to look at what the structure is of our technology solutions, either by an end user or a trusted partner like an integrator, and hire specifically for that role somebody that has the experience in security and cybersecurity. Maybe we have a cybersecurity person on staff that will be there that can log in, remotely manage whatever they need to do in order to protect these systems, because it's going to get to a point where all of the systems that we have now, and we saw this, grandmas were using Zoom. So we're going to get to a point where we need to have somebody that's going to be able to manage all of these users and all these systems, whatever the software platform is. And again, Surgex has a software platform, a receptacle, a commodity. So if a commodity that you plug into the wall is hanging on the network, then we've got a lot of equipment out there that we're going to need to make sure, because I don't want it to be me. I don't want it to be my equipment when something happens. And we don't want to be all pointing the finger, because that doesn't do any good. We need to be able to figure out what it is, where it happened, and fix the problem immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. Dawn, I mentioned the fact that you've been friends with the folks at Utelogy. I want to say since the beginning, but I could be off by a month or two. Take a look at some of the things, and you can certainly talk about Utelogy in general. But one of the things that I want you to talk about for a second is their data analytics. And the first person I ever met that you really utilized this software, not Utelogy, but the ability to tell room usage, was our buddy Scott Tyner up in Bates College in Maine. He was able to tell how many times an instructor pushed the VCR button at his campus. Now, understand how long I've known Scott Tyner, right? It's about 10, 15 years, but at the time, he was trying to illustrate the fact that professors didn't use the VCR, so please can we get rid of them, right? That was the whole idea here. Fast forward 10, 15 years, folks are using these for design decisions. When are we going to start seeing colleges, universities, Fortune 100 companies use this data for design considerations and designs decisions?
I mean, the smart ones already are. The ones that were forward thinking and that have already implemented these vast monitoring and network based, control or management systems, they're already doing that. And that's one of the beautiful things about it. That goes back to what Nairi was saying. This is where we're going to see the value in all of this. It is in making smart decisions, in getting better return on investment on our capital and our technology monies within the corporation. If we can demonstrate that of the 100 conference rooms I have to put in, only 2 of them are using a visual presenter, sorry to my friends at Wolf Vision or whatever, but we're not going to put them in every single design the way we used to. We're going to say, all right, we're going to have 2 or 3 rooms that have them. When you need to use one, schedule one of those rooms. We're not going to worry about it for the others. We have that capability, but it's not a universal capability. It's just there and it's available. And it really helps narrow down what is actually used, what is actually worth our money over the long term, and what, maybe isn't. And I know wearing the old integrator hat, it kind of hurts to say, sometimes it isn't worth it. We don't need to buy that, guys. You're overselling us, or you're selling us 10 years ago. And that's the case. There is still a use for like almost every product in the AV world. I will say there is at least one use case, one user, one room somewhere that needs almost every product we sell, but it's not everybody. And if you're not selling to that guy, your customers are wasting their money. So by utilizing things like the Utelogy, like the other management systems and software solutions out there, you really are demonstrating the value of your AV team and your AV designers to your corporate structure. Everybody always short staffs the AV team. This is where you prove your worth. You save them $300,000 per site on equipment that they didn't need, or you make their budget dollars go much further. They're going to pay attention. They're going to notice you. They're going to, keep using you, and they're going to not fire you. And you might get bonuses out of it, So this is the kind of thing you want to look at. If I could change the subject slightly back to what Christy said on security, I agree with 99.8% of everything you said. The one thing I don't agree with is you said, and now all of a sudden we have to be aware of security. I would argue you're too late if you're just starting to look at security.
Absolutely.
Tim?
Absolutely.
Tim, how long ago was that cybersecurity panel you came here to the DC area and moderated that I was on? Was that 5 years ago? 10 years ago?
It was around that 5 years ago. Yeah, it was 2015, 2016.
5 years ago, we were talking about this topic of getting onto the network, using, security, cybersecurity, that sort of thing against hacking. And 5 years ago, it was old news that all those millions of credit card numbers were stolen from Target because of a 232 port on an HVAC system.
Is that what it was?
5 years ago. Yeah, that's what it was. They hacked into the network by a smart HVAC system that had a 232 port that nobody thought to secure. And they were able to, black hat hackers are way smarter than you and I, and probably most of us watching this.
That's what's scary.
That's what's scary. They can get in through a 232 port on a furnace or AC unit and get their way through the network and steal millions of credit card numbers. 5 years ago, it was old news that certain ceiling speakers in our industry were being used in hacks. 5 years ago, I'm pretty sure, it's more than 5 years ago, we were seeing President Obama's conference room table on the front page of newspapers because a certain manufacturer had a backdoor password. It hadn't been hacked, thankfully, but it was hackable because it was a known backdoor password that all of us AV integrators knew about. But that is a massive security concern. So, it's 2021, folks. I mean, the Zoom bombing and all of the last minute, oh my God, this is just making it all of our customers aware of it. This is finally opening their eyes.
It's just exacerbating an already terrible situation.
Right. And this is stuff that we should have, as integrators, as manufacturers, as end users within this field, we should have been taking care of years ago. Because now the general public is saying, oh, crap, my kid got Zoom bombed and somebody got in there, and why isn't there security on this? And if every 5-year-old's mom is concerned about this, your CEOs are concerned about it. So security, you should already have cybersecurity on staff. If you don't, go hire them.
So I will leave you with this warm and fuzzy thought. Mitchell, I'm going to have you put this link on this episode's page. I want you guys to go to Shodan.io, and this is I use this in the presentation that Dawn was mentioning, and Nairi is shaking his head yes. Shodan.io, and I want you to type in your favorite AV manufacturer in that search, and I want you to discover how many publicly accessible IP addresses are associated with that manufacturer, or better yet, I want you to type in your works website and see if there's any publicly accessible IP addresses. I've done this a couple different times with a number of manufacturers, and let's just say that I accessed some wireless presentation devices that I probably shouldn't have at the time. It was 5 or 6 years ago. I'm certain that the statute of limitation has expired, and I am not sitting in the state in which I did that in. So we'll leave it at that.
I was just watching the look of panic on Christy's face, like, oh my God, we got to go to the company website real quick.
I can't hide it and have the emotions on my face.
No, but that's real talk. I mean,
don't play poker, girl.
So here's how I look at these things, because yes, we need to build better mousetraps. The mice are going to continue to get smart and continue to find that cheese. And so you got to do some baseline due diligence at this stage of the game. It's really a drill to keep your lawyers happy, so that when your devices are hacked, you can say that you did everything that you tried to do and these people just outsmarted you. But to do nothing, that is definitely opening you up for a world of liability that you honestly don't want to deal with. I mean, GDPR. Oh my God! I don't know a company in the world that wants to be found in violation of that. So, to the extent that you can protect your customers' data and ensure that they have pleasurable experiences, you have to balance that with the functionality of the device and application. But at the end of the day, you got to do the dance to keep your lawyers happy. That's the way I look at it.
I will say this, and I'll say this until I retire doing this. Teresa Payton is one of my favorite security experts in the world. She was the very first CIO or CTO, I don't remember which one, of the White House under Bush 2. And interviewed her once, and she said, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when someone tries to hack you. So,
Yep.
thank you all so much. Nairi, thanks, buddy. We finally got him on. The last time Nairi was on, they hijacked him, or hijacked
Him,
the show
Bradford.
for our episode 500.
Oh, I was like, did he get hacked?
Bradford Ben got hacked. Yes, Bradford Ben hacked this show for episode 500. So I told him I'd have him back on. So thank you. So thank you, sir. How do people get a hold of you, sir?
Sure, you can find me on LinkedIn, Nairi Hollingsworth, first name, last name. Also on Twitter, Nairi H. And I will also be teaching at Infocom this year, so please check out my class, Navigating Difficult Customer Conversations. It's really going to be a role play of some different customer interactions, and hopefully we have a group full of people that have had some similar experiences, and we can share a little bit of knowledge and hopefully make each other better.
Yeah, absolutely. You can register for that now, the 27th through the 29th of October. So are you doing it during the week or beforehand?
I'm doing it during the week.
Okay, so
can't remember off the top of my head which day, but I'm doing it.
No, that's okay. I just want to make sure that I didn't push people, in case you were doing it like
you're supposed to know this.
Nairi's a little busy. Sorry.
Making sure they don't get hacked. See?
That's right.
All right, exactly. Ms. Mead, thank you, ma'am, as always. How do people connect with you?
Well, as we said at the top of the show, you can't find me at work, but you can certainly reach me on LinkedIn and some of the social medias at Dawn Mead, MEADE, with an E like the fort. If you don't find me there, you can find me on all the other socials at AVDawn. And you can find me here if you go back through the archives of AVWeek. Every few weeks, I'll pop up here and annoy Tim. And, of course, hosting AV Social here on avnation.tv. Oh, and P.S., I also am teaching at Infocom this year. One class on my own on effective communication for integrators and teams looking to do better sales, do better internal communications, and better follow-up with your customers. And then my boss and I are co-teaching a class on customer experience and design choices and, how to be a better integrator from the mouth of some end users.
All right, very cool. You should definitely check out both of those, all three of those classes. Christy, thank you so much. I'm very, very pleased to finally get you on this show. I interviewed Christy during our International Women's Month month, but I'm glad to get you on this. How do people connect with you or Surgex?
So it's Christy Mitchell. I think that this pops up on the screen. You can also find me on LinkedIn, and I promise this week I'm gonna join Twitter. All of you guys,
don't do it. Don't. No, it's bad. Don't. This week is a bad week. Just don't do it. Just.
Okay, so wait until next week.
Wait another week. Yes.
I won't even ask why. I just, Twitter's just never been my thing because I'm a very verbose person, and I just refuse to be limited. I just refuse to be like 37 characters.
That's why God made tweet threads, my honey.
Yeah,
we'll teach you all about that.
We'll teach you. Go ahead and sign up. We'll let you know.
Since the last time I was on it. You can find me not there, but you can find me on LinkedIn. And also, I will be in balmy Orlando at Infocom. Please come over and visit the Surgex booth and watch me blow things up because I know y'all know what the Surgex booth does at Infocom. We pop MOVs all day. It's an exciting demonstration. So come visit me, say hello, and I wish you folks well. I know that things are kind of crazy as we're getting back up and running. So I just want to take the opportunity to say Godspeed to everybody. And if you need anything, I'll holler.
All right, very good. For me, don't follow me on the Twitters. I somewhat joking. There was a little bit of unnecessary drama on Twitter this week, but it all got worked out.
There always is.
There always is. But don't follow me on the Twitters because I'm either counting down the days until the Bears start playing or the Blues. So that's about all I'm doing right now. But go by the website if you would, please, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. You will find this program and a host of others, including our buddy Matt Scott's show, AVWeek, as we all gear up for CEDIA, which will be our very first in-person covering trade show in over a year and a half. Yes, ma'am.
And happy Canada Day. We're recording on Canada Day for Matt Scott and all of our friends in the Great White North.
Not for Matt Scott. Matt Scott's the world's worst Canadian.
Well, we know
Everybody
that,
else,
but we can still wish him a happy Canada Day.
Do we? Okay, I suppose we have to. All right, yeah, happy Canada Day. By the time this comes out, it will be the United States celebrating either independence or, if you are an Englishman, traitorous. So entirely up to you how you want to celebrate
Traitorous
that.
Colonial Day.
Exactly. But yeah, just check that out, please. And check out Dawn's show, AV Social. So that's really cool. And yeah, that's it. Check out our sponsors. These are folks who help us financially help us bring you AVWeek, AVWeek, and all the others. So all that and more at avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That's all the time we have for AV Week.